For people that are watching this on a global scale or listening to this, I really want them to understand your trials, your tribulations. Can you tell us a little bit about your humble beginnings, where you started, how you grew up? Because I just think you are so inspirational.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this show. You know, one of the things that I speak is that I am a loving, world-renowned motivator. And so to be in Australia and in South Africa and with you, it lets me just know that everything I speak, I'm going to see. I believe that you say what you want until you see what you spoke. And so I'm
Wow.
grateful for you, just as grateful as you are for me. So, well, I will tell you this: I'm so grateful that how we start is not how we have to finish, because my story is very, 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 very different. I don't call it really difficult, because if it was difficult, I wouldn't be here. So I believe that it was all a part of my process and me becoming who I am today. But I grew up in very interesting times. My mom was actually on the way to having an abortion with me. My mom didn't even want to have me. My mom was in the streets, selling drugs. And so she didn't have time to have kids. And so by the time my mom found out she was pregnant with me, she wanted to have an abortion with me. So that's one of the parts of my story that a lot of people don't know about. But my mom was actually literally on the way to the abortion clinic, and my dad stepped in. And by the time he finished with her, the doctor told her that because she came late to her appointment, my mom was 5 months pregnant when she wanted to have an abortion with me. And so it didn't happen. And I truly believe that we are hearing things as we're in the womb. And so, that's not really something that we hear a lot about, but I believe that I heard a lot of that. So I grew up without a lot of love. My mom wasn't there, and my mom spent time in prison. My dad, I still don't really know where my dad was to this very day, but I know my mom was a very strong woman, and she like pushed my dad away. So when she would go to prison because she sold drugs, and she would get caught, and different things would happen. And so when my mom would go to prison, she wouldn't call my dad for help. She would just let me go to foster care or let me stay with a friend. And so I went from pillar to post from the age of about 7 years old to the age of about 14. I lived with different people when my mom was away. When she'll come home, she'll always come and get us. So my mom was a very, very loving woman, very, very strong woman, but she had to figure out ways to survive. And her survival mode made her not really be able to be a mom. And so at a young age, I saw drugs. At a young age, I was in a foster care system. At a young age, I dealt with men trying to molest me, and I had to figure out how to fight them off of me. At a young age, I had to figure out how to get food for myself. I had to figure things out. And it's funny because I really still to this day don't feel like it was that bad, you
Yeah,
know.
you're
But when you hear
amazing.
the story, it was like, that was horrible. At 13 years old, I was in a strip club. My mom was, off in Jamaica, and she left us with her boyfriend, and the water was off. And I went to a strip club, and I ended up making the money to pay the water bill, and I was 13. So, it just didn't seem that bad. I know to the average ear, it's like, that was horrible. But I'm grateful for all of those things that I experienced, because, it made me who I am today. I ended up having my first child at 15 years old. I dropped out of school in the ninth grade because I had to be a full-time mom. And, that's when I ended up having to become a full-time dancer, to be able to just try to put the food on the table and keep the lights on for me and my son at the time. And so, I finally, by the time I reached about 18 years old, that's when I realized that, oh my God, I'm like really a mom. Like, I'm really a mom, and I really have to have my own apartment. I had my own car. And so I grew up really, really, really fast. And I never ended up going back to school. I ended up going to get my GED. And so I was like a full-time dancer until I had my daughter, up until the age of 19. When I gave birth to my daughter, Manaya, that's when I decided that I did not want to live that type of life, because I did not want my daughter to emulate what I did. And so at 19 years old, I stopped being a stripper, and me and her dad tried to raise a family. And so he ended up opening up a boutique, and I ran his boutique. And that's when I really learned about real business. I learned about taxes and placing orders and having inventory and buying something for wholesale and selling it for retail, and how to keep a store in order, how to run a business. And so I really learned entrepreneurship from running my daughter's father's store. And to kind of make a long story short, I ended up getting into network marketing. Once I moved to Atlanta from Miami. By the time I was about 27, I was literally living in Miami. And Miami is a beautiful, diverse place, but it's not really a lot of opportunities at the time back then for
Yes.
Black people. Latinos and Caucasian people were the successful ones. And so I ended up going to Atlanta, Freaknik. Like, it was a big weekend called Freaknik in Atlanta. And I went to Atlanta. And when I went to Atlanta, I never saw that many successful Black people in my life. And so I felt like there was hope for me to be successful. They were riding around in Mercedes and Bentleys and big Cadillac trucks, and it just blew my mind. And so I ended up, I became a TSA agent. I used to work at the airport, and I literally went AWOL on my job. I walked off of my job, packed up my clothes and my shoes in a little BMW, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia with $135 worth of nickels, dimes to my name. And that's when I really emerged in the industry of network marketing and really pursued real entrepreneurship when I moved to Atlanta.